Have you ever heard about the dog who refused to leave his owner's grave? In the small village of Maplewood, Maryland, this strange story left everyone puzzled. Every day, a dog named Max could be found lying by a particular grave in the local cemetery. He never moved, no matter how much people tried to coax him away. Villagers whispered among themselves, wondering why Max was so attached to that spot. No one understood the reason behind Max's actions, but his loyalty captured the heart of everyone in town. As days turned into weeks, the mystery around the grave grew. What could be so special about this one grave? What secret was Max guarding? When the truth finally came out, it shook the entire village, leaving everyone shocked and heartbroken. This is a story of loyalty, love, and an unbreakable bond that goes beyond life itself. The village of Maplewood, Maryland, looked like something out of a storybook, with cozy houses lined up on quiet streets and colorful gardens blooming in every yard. Life in the village felt peaceful and simple. Neighbors greeted each other warmly. Children played games in the streets, and the days passed by slowly, as if the village itself was in no hurry. But beneath this calm and charming surface, something unusual was happening. At the local cemetery, a dog named Max was drawing everyone's attention. Every morning, he walked to the same grave, lay down beside it, and stayed there for hours. His tail wagged slowly, and his eyes seemed full of purpose. The villagers couldn't understand what made this grave so special to Max. Rumors started to spread, and curiosity began to grow. Why wouldn't Max leave? What was it about this grave that held him there? Every morning, Max followed the same routine. He would walk through the village, past the colorful houses and lively streets, and head straight to the cemetery. There, he would lie down by the same grave, his body still and his eyes focused on the headstone. His behavior quickly became the talk of the village. People tried everything to move Max from the grave. Some brought treats, hoping to tempt him with food. Others brought toys, waving them in front of him to grab his attention. A few even tried gently pulling him away, whispering kind words to soothe him. But no matter what they did, Max refused to budge. He stayed firmly by the grave, as if guarding something no one else could understand. The villagers were puzzled. Why was Max so attached to this one spot? What could it possibly mean? Days turned into weeks, and their curiosity only grew. As they watched Max's silent devotion, the villagers couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this grave than met the eye. The mystery deepened, and with every passing day, more people began to gather, eager to uncover the truth behind Max's loyalty. The villagers couldn't stop talking about Max and the mysterious grave he guarded so closely. As they watched his daily visits, their curiosity turned into endless questions. Who was buried there? Was it someone special to Max, or was there a deeper secret? Some villagers began to share their memories of the man whose name was written on the headstone. His name was Daniel, a kind and cheerful soul who'd always been a part of their small community. People remembered how Daniel's warm smile and friendly nature brought joy to those around him. But no one could figure out why Max was so devoted to Daniel's grave. The mystery continued to grow, and the villagers couldn't help but wonder if they had missed something important about Daniel's life. What had connected him to Max so deeply? The answer, they knew, would change everything. The villagers grew more and more concerned for Max. It was clear that he hadn't left the grave in weeks, and they worried about his health. One morning, a group of them decided they couldn't just stand by and watch anymore. "We can't let him stay out here in the cold," said Mrs. Davis, a kind-hearted woman who had lived in the village her whole life. With gentle hands, they tried to lift Max away from the grave. Some tried calling him, hoping to coax him with treats and toys. Others softly stroked his fur, hoping he would listen. But Max wouldn't move. He whimpered softly, but remained stubbornly by the grave. No matter how much the villagers tried, Max refused to leave. His loyalty was unshakable. It became clear to everyone that this wasn't just about food or comfort. There was something much deeper keeping him there. Max's loyalty to the grave became impossible to ignore. The villagers decided they needed help. They called in Officer Claire, a compassionate woman known for her kind heart and sharp mind. She had heard the rumors about the dog and the mysterious grave and decided to investigate. When Officer Claire arrived at the cemetery, the villagers gathered around, eager for answers. She spoke to a few people, asking what they knew about the grave and about Daniel, the man buried there. The villagers shared what little they knew, but the mystery remained unsolved. The officer was determined to get to the bottom of this. "We need to understand why Max is so attached to this grave," she said, making notes in her notebook. "The The whole village seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for the truth to finally come to light. The day finally came when Officer Claire and her team were ready to dig. The whole village gathered at the cemetery, waiting to see what they might uncover. The air was thick with tension, and Max stood by the grave, his eyes fixed on the officers, as if he knew something important was about to happen. The villagers whispered to each other, their voices filled with curiosity and nervous excitement. "Do you think they'll find anything?" one man asked. Others exchanged worried looks, wondering what this would mean for Max. With each shovel of dirt that was removed, the tension grew. The sound of the digging echoed in the quiet cemetery, and the crowd leaned in closer, hoping to finally get some answers. Max stood still, his tail stiff, watching closely. He wasn't leaving. Whatever was buried there, he wasn't going to let it go unnoticed. As the officers continued to dig, the air seemed to grow colder. With each scoop of dirt, the crowd's excitement and nervousness grew. Then, suddenly, the shovel hit something hard. The villagers gasped, and Max let out a low whine, standing even closer to the grave. Officer Claire carefully cleared the dirt away, revealing something shiny. It was a collar that Max knew very well. The crowd fell silent, staring in shock. It was the collar of Daniel, the man buried in the grave. Max howled loudly, a mournful sound that echoed through the cemetery. It was clear now, this wasn't just any grave, and Max's loyalty wasn't just about love. It was something deeper, something that tied Max to Daniel in a way the villagers had never expected. The mystery was solved, but it left everyone speechless, with more questions than answers. As the collar was lifted from the grave, the truth hit the villagers like a wave. Max's devotion wasn't just about a simple bond, it was a bond that went beyond life itself. The collar, now exposed, was the key to understanding Max's behavior. It belonged to Daniel, the man Max had loved and protected even in death. Max howled again, a sound filled with sadness and longing. His eyes were locked on the collar, his grief clear to everyone watching. The villagers stood frozen, unable to speak. They now understood that Max's loyalty was something extraordinary. He wasn't just guarding a grave, he was mourning the loss of his best friend. Tears filled the villagers' eyes as they watched Max's heartbreaking display of love. It was a reminder that love knows no boundaries, not even death. Max's devotion would stay in their hearts forever. As the villagers watched, Max slowly lay down beside Daniel's grave once again. He seemed to understand that this was where he belonged beside his friend, even in death. His head rested gently on the headstone, his eyes soft, as if he was still waiting for Daniel to return. The air was thick with emotion as the villagers quietly observed. They had witnessed something truly extraordinary. Max had stayed loyal to Daniel, not because he was commanded to, but because he loved him more than anything. In that moment, Max's devotion taught the villagers a lesson they would never forget. True love doesn't end with death. As the sun set over the small cemetery, the village remained still. Max stayed by the grave, his watchful eyes a reminder that love is the strongest bond of all. And with that, the story of Max and Daniel's unbreakable loyalty would stay in their hearts forever.